All right, you guys okay if we get started? Because if you looked at the agenda, I'm very nervous about doing this in 60 minutes. But hopefully if people arrive late, they can kind of just join us. First off, my name is Joe Crawford. I'm the Assistant Superintendent. I'm the one who bothered you with the emails and bothered you probably with other emails, and I appreciate your willingness to come out tonight. I didn't know how many people we would have. We had a little over 40 people said that they would be here, but then there were some people that, last minute changes and things. So we'll see. First, I told you it might be chilly. Okay, I was wrong. But those of you that any Barca parents ever hang out here in this library, it is typically very, very cold. But Dave explained to me they're working on the roof, so they turned off the HVAC units. So I apologize. I wore long sleeves thinking that it was going to be freezing in here. So first off, I want to do very little sort of direct talking. I want time for us to kind of dig in and talk about report cards. But I introduced myself. First off, I want to thank Jonathan. Jonathan is are you director of media or media director? Or whatever? Coordinator, whatever. So thanks, Jonathan. Jonathan's here just videotaping this, partly because we want to, if people want to, watch this later and kind of see what we all talked about, that's great. But he's not trying to capture any of you in any way, but he's trying to make sure that he can capture kind of the conversations that are happening. So thanks, Jonathan. So we have some administrators that are here, again, just to listen and try to learn. So Dave Brown is principal of Barca. You guys might know Dave. Bill Fox is principal of West Running Brook Intermediate School. Melissa Lance is principal of Grinnell. And Kim Conant is our director of curriculum and grants. So I don't really like the grant side. Hey, how are you? Hey, thanks for coming, guys. Hey, Lynn, how are you? So you can probably see, so we set up your tables with lots of materials. So I'll try to explain briefly so we don't take too much time. Eventually, we're gonna ask you to talk with people. So if you're at a table all by yourself, at some point, probably it would make sense to turn to the people near you and talk with them. But the purpose of tonight is really for us to get feedback from you guys and try to understand things that are important to you. Certainly, we can answer some questions if you want, but I'm not necessarily here to present or try to convince you of anything or argue anything at you. I'm really trying to better understand what are the varying perspectives of family members around report cards. We're also not going to make any big decisions here in this group. It's not necessarily appropriate for just the people in this library to make all the decisions, but we're gonna record all this. Kim's taking some notes. As you heard me say, Jonathan's recording this. And there's really the only document that I ask you not to leave here with tonight is when you guys take notes on some of your discussions, I gave you a little handout because it's going to be really hard to capture everything that's said. So we'd like to hold on to these so we can try to dig through them later on. But everything else, if you feel like you need some sticky notes at home, you can take those. So before we get started, anybody have any general questions or things that they were wondering just about today? Oh, I also put an agenda. There's at least a handful of agendas on each of the tables for you somewhere. It's sort of what I emailed you, but I tried to be specific and also let you know that I'm really, really trying to be careful with your time. So I'm really trying to cram this into 60 minutes. So for that reason, I'm gonna try to keep things moving. But what I was telling Dave is I know that they have to lock up this building at some point. I will be happy to stand in the parking lot and talk afterwards if there are things that you didn't get a chance to talk about or you just want to talk more about. I really enjoy talking about education stuff. And then at about 7:15 this evening, you're going to get an email from me that asks you to complete a survey. It's already preloaded, ready to go, to give me some feedback about what you thought about this activity, whether we should do more of these types of things. And there'll be a box for if you have something to share about report cards, but you did not get a chance to say it that you think is really important, please add it here. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna just make sure I'm not skipping something. Okay, so the first topic that hoping to dedicate about 25 minutes of time, which seems bizarre that we're gonna try to do this in 25 minutes, is to tackle the question of what is the purpose of report cards? And I know some people, I had somebody say, well, are you just gonna tell us what the purpose of report cards is? Is this your opportunity to present? And that's not what I'm looking to do. What I'm looking to do is, as you guys think about report cards, because I think you're obviously here because you care about report cards. What do you believe are the primary, most important purposes of report cards? So my hope is that you can spend roughly 10 minutes talking in a group and taking some notes. And then I'm going to ask you to kind of consolidate all the things that you've got down on your paper and put a sticky note on, fill out one sticky note for each of what you would say is like a really important purpose of report cards. Maybe your group says there's only one purpose. I'm not saying that there need to be more than one, but there might be. And then I'm going to have you bring those sticky notes up to me. We're going to put them up, and we're just going to try to find out if there is some consensus in this room about what people think is the real purpose. And then if our goal is to try to figure out what would a good report card, like the end is how can we improve our report cards to make them meet our needs. That should be aligned to why do they exist, like what's their purpose, who's the primary audience, and what are the features and characteristics that audience really needs and wants. So those are kind of the big three umbrellas. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So 607, we're doing pretty good. If you're by yourself, if you could find a nearby group and then just start with that question, and there's one of these on every table. That first box just says jot down your ideas, and we'll give you time. We're going to try not to bother you and be too involved. So go. I'm going to put this up in a minute just so people can look at it, but just to save you some time, I'm going to read a little bit of what you all put down here. And I had you put them on separate sticky notes because I may group some of them if we start to feel like, wow, this is pretty consensus here. So I'll just read them in no particular order whatsoever. So these are the purposes that have been discussed. To report how students are in regards to state standards. Communication tool to bring the parent or guardian into the solve, aka help student thrive. Understand student approach to work. Subject mastery. Learn the gaps or areas of improvement. Inform parents and students how students are doing in each area. Teacher to tell parents how well material was understood. This one had 3, so I broke it up into 3. How is my child doing in school? How can I support my child's learning? What are areas of concern? Communication tool for a teacher. Actionable items to improve student learning. Show measured student progress. Summarize or inform what teachers know what areas of improvement are and areas of strength. Should include academic and social emotional. Learn what the district's learning goals and expectations are. Status of students socially and academically. Identify trends in the student work, strengths and weaknesses. And assess the teacher or team's ability to meet my child's needs. If I missed one of yours, I'm sorry. They weren't all lined up perfectly, and I get distracted easily. So I know I just read a lot of them, and I'm going to take some time in your next activity and see if I can start grouping them a little bit and then have you look at my work and see if it's legit. But just first impressions, did you hear any common themes just orally that anybody want to share, something that kind of jumped out or that you saw or you heard a lot of? Yeah.
It was, students' progress throughout the year. That was a lot. And then, social and emotional progress as well, where they are.
Yeah, good point. So the word progress, I think, was multiple times. And then there were a couple of, social and academic or social emotional. Yeah, cool. Does somebody else?
Communication. What's communication?
Yeah, sounds like it's supposed to be a tool of communication. Any other things that seem to be mentioned over and over again? It's okay if we have, yeah.
Looking for areas of improvement.
Looking for areas of improvement. So like sometimes I think about like the difference between just feedback and constructive feedback. So there was, I noticed there was one that was like, what can I do to help? Right? For me, that's constructive. Yeah. All right. I don't want to silence any voices, but I also want to let you go home at some point. So the next activity, and I've already forgotten, but that's okay. It's on your agenda. So this one should be pretty quick. Really, I'm asking you to have a quick conversation. Come on in. You can sit wherever you want. Have a quick conversation with the people at your table. And the question, maybe it seems obvious, but I really don't want to I don't want to pretend that I know what I think I know. Who's the primary audience for report cards? And I gave you some some choices, and I said rank order them or put them yeah, rank order them so that we can start to think about like, who are we really designing this for? So if you could take just a few minutes to have that conversation and fill out the paper, that'd be great. I'll stop talking now. So we asked you to kind of have a priority list and try to order them. I'm not going to have you run up with sticky notes or anything right now, but I'm just curious if we could go around. I'm just interested. Who did you guys say was the #1 primary audience? Or
Sure. We said at the individual level, like on a per student basis, it would be the parents and the guardians and the students themselves. At a macro level, holistically, at an aggregate level, it should be the school district and the public.
to see individual student report cards?
No, macro level. So like the district itself, how all of the students are doing and where the entire district's gaps are and strengths are.
That's hard to take. Yes. All right, that's good. Thank you. What did you guys come up with?
You said parents and guardians.
Parents and guardians? Parents.
#1, parents and guardians.
Versus parents and guardians.
Did you guys?
And children. We talked about,
Yep.
like, talking
Especially as they
to
get older?
children about the grades that they get. Well, even in, like, my kid for 2nd grade, I sat down and I was like, let's look at your report card and see how you're doing. Let's talk about it.
Cool. That's great.
It's good for them to know.
So parents and students have been the primary, and then what did you guys say?
We have parents, guardians as primary, students as second, and then teachers and staff as third, support children like IEPs and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's another sort of collection place for data. Okay, I mean, that's, I think what we all thought going in that we were gonna, most of us were gonna sort of center around this idea of report cards as a really important tool for families and parents and things like that. Any real strong debates happen in your group, or you don't have to talk about it if you're not in a good place, but I try to push that fast because the next thing I want you to do is harder. So before we do that next thing, thank you though for that, and you're writing this stuff down on there, good. Kim categorized these, and so if you don't like it, it's Kim's fault. So tell us kind of how you group them, Kim, and see if it makes sense to people, because I think it makes.
One of them is, I think you have to come over here because your mic.
What? I'm sorry.
Come over here because the mic. Your mic's up.
Oh, do you want the mic?
No, I want you to come over here. So the first one is, it's kind of about what the district like competencies and standards are. So what are those learning targets? That's there. This is about understanding, communicating out to either the student's progress or communicating out to parents and how to better help their children. Over here is about the need to summarize what their strengths and or weaknesses are. And this one is about academic and social emotional learning and their progress. So those are the 4 categories that we kind of came up with.
And as I was looking, there was definitely like a lot of overlap between some of them, because some of them talked about progress against standards. And it's like, well, those are two pretty important things. So thank you guys for doing that. Cool. So the next thing, and I want to try to differentiate this next question so that we don't get a lot of repeats from the first question. So in the first question, we asked you to think about the purposes of report cards, like why do they exist? And this question now I want you to, so we've talked about, those are kind of the big purposes that we just sort of agreed upon. I wouldn't say everybody agreed on everything, but we have some commonality there. And we're acknowledging that for the most part, report cards, and I'm not saying exclusively, for the most part, report cards are targeting communication to parents and children or students. Secondarily, they can be sort of extrapolated on a big level to how's our district doing. And then certainly teachers can look at report cards. I would say that's true. As you consider, I guess to help focus your brains, as you think about parents, guardians, and students, the next question is, what specific information does that group want and need? And the reason I say want and need is I want you to think about it across that sort of, and I use the metaphor when I was talking earlier to Dave about when I go see my doctor, there's certain things I want to know, and then there's certain things I need to know. And I may not always be seeking out that information, but it's there because it's provided to me because it's important. It's incumbent upon that professional to share that information with me because they sort of have an ethical professional responsibility. So when you guys are talking, Can you start to dig down into what are the specific things, bits of information that parents and students really want and need to see on the report card? What's that important stuff? So if you could take like a handful of minutes, 5 to 7, 8 minutes, talk amongst yourselves, take notes on the sheet like you did the last time, and then I think I said, did I say go to the top 3, create a top 3, or no? No, I didn't. So then you're just going to, again, use your sticky notes, and for each of the ones that really were pertinent to your discussion, a sticky note for each of those things. You might have some overlap, but that's okay. So go. Sorry to keep talking. I'm going to try to read these and just so you can hear them out loud. So this is, what information do we want or need? Participation in classroom interaction with others. How to support improvement and progress. Strengths and deficits. Quantified measure of where students are academically. Social emotional information. Points of improvement. A concrete definitive measure of how students are doing compared to where they should be at a given time. What and how the student is doing. How is the child doing academically and how that relates to peer group. Standards and expectations for progress and how my student is moving toward the goals. Specific recommendations of how to support my student that are not online. Information regarding individual student strengths and weaknesses. Consistency for grades between teachers. Understanding where in the current report card brackets student, wait. No, that's okay. It's likely me. Understanding where in the current report card brackets student falls, what determines LP, EP, DP. I think I got that last part. That makes sense. Need consistency and objective measurement tools, less subjective. Is my child a responsible member of the classroom community? Ability to have a discussion and two-way conversation with actionable goals. More objective, less subjective. Give examples and work samples. What can I do? Specifics. Rubric level examples of learning goals in plain language. Whew, that was a lot and I'm sweating. So yeah, that's right, I know. And I hear you guys like them shorter than longer, but that's gonna be long. No, so that's really great feedback. Any just initial things that you heard that seem to jump out as common? And we'll have Kim go do her job. Explanation. So when you say that, do you mean like more clear language that's understandable? Okay. Or more detail maybe? I'm not sure.
Not necessarily detail, because the ones that we have are very detailed, it's just not clear.
The language is hard. Okay. I heard that too in a couple of them. Any other things that jumped out to people?
Where they are in regards to the standards.
So some measurement that's connected to a standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not just like where they are, but where they should be at that point in time as well.
Okay.
We talked a lot about at our table, like the bracket piece of it, because what determines where that student falls in that bracket? Like, so what is making them emerging from that area? I think that's important to identify those assets of it.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So I think I got that. Are we clearly explaining the difference between LP, EP?
But what determines it? Like, how much, I think.
How do you get each of those? Like if you're DP, are you solid on each of those? And if so, then why is there a highly proficient? So like where within the bracket is
The growth
your
piece.
student?
Okay.
So like are we DP that's just past level, or are we like way
How
away?
close am I to HB?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
I think the perception is that it's not very objective, it's very
I heard
subjective.
subjective here, yeah.
And if we have like clear, like the example that this nice lady was talking about, is like, you know, for a child in elementary school, at the beginning, you know, the child doesn't know their multiplication tables, but the goal is at the end for them to know 12 times 12, and the progression in between. So, you know, actual like goals for the child that you can measure along the way.
Okay. So when you guys think of like the I can statements that spell out exactly what the goal is and the standard, is that not Do you feel like that's subjective, or do you feel like that's objective? I'm trying to.
I think the statements, and I don't want to speak for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
I think the statements are clear. I think we can all read them and come up with, yes, we understand what this means. But if they are emerging proficiency, okay, does that mean like, okay, they just improved because they were like LP, you know, at the beginning of the school year when we didn't have a report card because it was the beginning of the school year or whatever, and now they're doing better and they're on this great trend? Or were they really doing well at the beginning of the school year and now they're falling behind and we should be working more at home? Or, you know what I mean? So I guess that's where it doesn't make sense to me, is it's not giving me the information that I need to then bring to my child and say, let's work harder on this.
Cool. What were you gonna say?
My struggle is, because it's happened to my daughter a couple of times now, she got LPs on her report card, and I encouraged her to go and talk to her teacher. She was in second grade when she got her first one, and she was upset. And I said, don't worry about it, it's an LP, but you can always improve. So you just go to your teacher and ask, what am I not doing? What do I need to do better? How do I fix this? And like I had emailed the teacher, and the teacher got back to me with, oh, we actually just started that, so she doesn't have any progress in it. That's why it's limited progress. But that's not on the report card. It just shows the LP, and that drives me crazy. I'm like, okay, well, is there any way to put that on the report card that you literally just started talking about this yesterday, and now you're grading it?
Great. That's good.
Sorry, so on the flip side to that, so my son got like a high, like an HP, I think, or something. But I know for a fact that when he does math, he knows the concept, but he's very careless. So sometimes the answer is wrong. And the teacher said, oh, that's fine, because it's showing that he knows how to do it. My problem with that is, no, it's math. He needs to have the correct answer.
Right. So there's a difference between having the knowledge and having the sort of habits. and yeah, that's a great point. Not that I want to silence anybody. I do want to make sure we keep moving. So if I have stepped on you and you wanted to talk, say one more chance and we'll move on. No, that was terrible because I just told you we need to move on. But Kim's going to come up here and she's going to go through and look at this, and then we'll give you some feedback, or you can see it and give us feedback in a few minutes. The next thing that I think will be maybe fun or maybe terrifying is we pulled together, and this is going to be challenging just given time, but hopefully some of you got here early and have already started digging in. There are two packets, piles of packets on your table. One packet is labeled like A through E, and one packet is labeled F through 5 letters later, I want to say J. The A through E are elementary report cards, and the F through J are middle school report cards. So you guys are just like students. You start looking at this stuff. I shouldn't get, no, you're fine, you're fine. I just want you to take time and really look at as many as you can and try to identify features, characteristics of these cards that you like or that you don't like. Some of them are past report cards from the Derry Cooperative School District. If you've been around for a while, you'll recognize them. Some of them are report cards from our neighboring communities, and some of them are made up just fantasy report cards. So there are 5 elementaries, 5 middle, and I made a little chart. If you guys want to, if you can, as a group, start taking notes on things you guys think that you like and things that you don't like, and just go, and I'm going to stop talking. Can I have your attention back up here, and we'll begin the wrap-up process. My apologies for giving you so much work to do on a summer night and not giving you enough time to do it. But again, I'm really thankful. So before we talk about this stuff, Kim and I did take a look at the sticky notes about the information that we want and we need, and we categorized it into kind of 4 categories. We said some information about how recommendations for improvement. How can I help my child? Improvement. This area here was information about non-academic stuff. What kind of member? How is my child as a member of the community? That kind of what does it say? Interaction with others, ability to have a discussion, social emotional information. So that's that one. This one over here was really about consistency, less subjectivity. That's really important. And then this one was really about detailed information about what my student knows. Where are they in relationship to the standard? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Quantified measure of where students are academically. So that's kind of that category there. So we thought there were kind of 4 pretty observable categories. Obviously, you could split them into multi-subcategories, but that was interesting. So that's really, really helpful. So I know that I didn't give you enough time, but you hopefully had a chance to look at 10 different report cards. And one of the takeaways from talking with each other, I was hoping that maybe you guys identified some things that you really liked that were on the elementary report cards, and maybe some things that you really liked about the middle school report cards, and maybe they're the same things, maybe they're different things. And then, I was going to have a whole conversation about maybe as we develop an intermediate report card, we kind of take some of this stuff from both sides. But let me just start out with, is there any group that wants to share 1 or 2 of their top things that they really liked about any of the report cards? And you can tell us the report card if you want, or you can just tell us about the feature. Anything you want to share? I mean, we're going to read all this, but anybody want to throw any of that out there?
Between both of them is that they're easy to read, comments are student-centered, and that they measure progress within the standard. So like describing where they actually are with it.
Okay, so easy to read, student-centered, and showing progress at a specific standard. Perfect, that was very concise. Anybody else either agree with that or have something else?
Yeah, I mean, we like report card C all around for elementary school. The goals that were broken down in the subject area. We like the letter grade, specifically the F, which it says yet to demonstrate and doesn't mean fail. And the grades with the accompanying descriptors. And then for the middle school, it was report card G and H, hands down, because they're basically like the same thing and also just about the same thing as C. So like the comments, the broken down descriptions, the grades with the descriptors.
Okay, great. I heard a number of when she mentioned C, so it seemed like C was attractive to some people, so that's helpful to us. That's great. Yeah.
One of them said not applicable at this time. That was
Yes,
wonderful.
yes,
That's
yes. That is too.
Not applicable at this time.
So did you write that down somewhere on your?
I have no
Great.
idea if I wrote it down.
Because I heard a number of people say, yeah, you like having a code that's basically like, we just not.
Don't worry about that yet. Yeah.
Okay. We haven't learned this. Cool. Yeah.
On report card G, I like the section that was labeled behaviors that support learning. That was something, my son just finished kindergarten, so I'm new to the district, but that was something I was confused that there was no SEL section. In first trimester, there was like a box on the bottom that said,
It's coming.
"Students are learning, it's coming," and then second, third, there never was anything, so I was kind of confused about that.
Yeah, you should have been confused. Well, you shouldn't have been, but I understand why you were confused. Yeah, we really struggled with how to craft language that was inclusive and made sense to everybody, but didn't sort of, because in the world of education, I think we recognize that kids are developing, right? So there's like developmentally appropriate behaviors that are not appropriate for any of us to do, but they're very developmentally appropriate for a kindergarten student to do. So we wanted to be clear that we don't want to set kids up for saying like you have no self-control, but I joke because my wife works in kindergarten, like I don't know a lot of kindergartners that have self-control. That's not really normal. So thank you, that's helpful. Yeah.
We really like G as well, but we were just a little confused about on page 3. There's this middle school work study practices that we felt like these could vary greatly depending on the subject. And so we weren't really sure how did the team come up with one score? Should that
So
be
it's one score and like,
Yeah.
it varied across many cells.
and based on the subject matter and your child's interest in it, that could vary widely. So we thought that might be more helpful, even though it would make it longer, to kind of apply as well to the individual subject matters rather than one assessment overall.
It's great, it's helpful, yeah.
We didn't talk about it much, but on report card B, one of the things I think that we kind of like, I personally like having a traditional grade where they're transitioning back into Pinkerton, having a transitional grade again, that's going to help ease that transition.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I have a selfish question that hasn't come up. Color versus no color, does it matter to you all?
No
color.
Don't
What
waste
about-
your ink.
Say again?
Don't waste your ink.
No,
Don't
waste
waste your ink.
Sorry.
Well, they don't print that for us, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you do have color, please make it printable right now.
Yes, please.
They don't print out
Send
color.
them home.
They don't.
Yes, get rid of Power School, that's all I have to say.
And we're over. No. There are some things within my control and some things not. Okay.
At least for report cards.
Yeah, it would be nice.
At least for report cards.
Oh,
Get rid of Power School. Report cards.
Duly noted.
Keep
Write it down.
Power School, but just print the report cards. Like, I don't know. I don't like Power School.
It's obnoxious.
It's so hard and like it takes half an hour every time.
You gotta re-log in.
Oh, yeah.
Recreate a password. You gotta figure out how to navigate it.
It's not software, I get it, yeah.
If it was on the app, I feel like it would be fine, but it's not on the app.
It's not on the app. That is correct.
That's a
Which is
pain
a
in the
huge
ass.
paragraph. Okay, so you can leave with anything on your table with the exception of the note-taking sheets. I really want those.
Will you recycle these?
What'd you say?
Will you be recycling the papers?
If you don't want to take them, we recycle paper here. But if you can take them if you want to go home and just pour over report cards. So obviously I want to thank you. This is, obviously you all care deeply, but it's also really busy. So I appreciate your willingness to do this. So I already told you in like 6 minutes, you're going to get an email with a link to a survey. That information is helpful. Don't feel like you need to say nice things. You don't just share whatever you feel like you'd like to share. But there is a box where you can talk about something that you didn't really get a chance. So if you want to like talk about Power School, definitely. We'll be sharing this information among our leadership group. We have a retreat coming up in August where we're going to be talking about a lot of this. The second thing is we're in that middle. We're kind of in this place where we want to make improvements and changes to our report cards. We also want to be careful not to become like that pendulum that reacts and then throws everybody out of whack, because every year we just throw the baby out with the bathwater and we start over, and that can become tiring and really confusing for people. So we're trying to thread the needle of how can we make some like immediate improvements to our report cards that don't throw people over the edge. Spoiler alert, we're going to be using Power School this year but this is not because of your comments. And these guys know, because we talked about this like months ago. We are in a year-long process of investigating breaking up with Power School and seeking a new student information system. But some of you here work in education, and you know how really big and deep student information systems are. They have really everything. So it's a long process, but we're absolutely considering that. So the reason I want to say that is like we will be rolling out and communicating, if we are making changes, and I assume we are, to you all probably sometime in August, getting close to the start of the year. Report cards don't come out until December, but we really want parents to hear more about these changes. But it's going to take a little bit of time to sift through this and also look at what's possible and all those pieces. But this night was, for me, incredibly helpful. Any last words that you want to say, or?
Yeah, I appreciate it so much, being included, and maybe if we're listened to, that'd be even better. Unlike the school board, the whole other story. Great.
Well, I hope you can feel comfortable reaching out to any of us. We try to be all really accessible. Thank you.
Is this coming out of that group that you guys hired to do that like external survey of?
Yeah, not really, but yeah. So G&D Associates, we hired them to consult with us to build a strategic plan, which is still in process. We have our next meeting in a few weeks. I know Dave's on that team. I can't remember who else is on it. Melissa's on that team. Kim's okay. So it didn't come out directly out of that, but our board has established some goals for us. And one of them is to really improve and increase communication with families. And so we're trying to look for lots of different ways. You'll see a newsletter coming out very shortly that Kim and I are working on, and other things, but it wasn't directly connected to that. Good question. Have a great summer. I'll see you around. Reach out. Thanks again. Leave anything you don't want, but did you already take all those? Cool. Thanks, guys.